Yeah, here we go. It's another edition of the Joe Raineri Show. It is your Friday football fix and picks brought to you by wagertalk.com. Want to thank you guys very much for stopping by, hanging out with us here today as we look to head into the weekend, and we want to make some money. Isn't that what it's all about? Well, you've come to the right place because wagertalk.com's very own Ralph Michaels. You're going to hear from him in just a few. We're going to cover some of the college games, some of the more prominent college games, some of the more prominent NFL matchups this weekend. He's going to give you his thoughts, his selections, and then, of course, we're going to deep dive into some of those games and give you the trends that you need to know, because it's all about the numbers, right? If you guys are interested in beginning to learn how to wager on sports, if you've ever wanted to know what it's all about or how to get involved in it, then there's one place you really do need to go, and that is wagertalk.com. YAHOOSPORTS.com. Knowledge is power. Some amazing free information on there for you, not to mention you have access to over a dozen or so of the best sports handicappers in the country, all available for you there at wagertalk.com. So make sure that you guys check it out. Also want to welcome those of you joining us via the social media websites there, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Happy Friday, guys. You've made it to another end of the week, and we had some action on the games last night, as I'm sure you did. Giant fans wish the season would be over already. They've pretty much had all they can handle of Eli Manning and company. They're pretty much done. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, and the problem with Giant fans right now is they're stuck between that. They have a conundrum. They got a big conundrum. Don't ask me to spell that word, but they do have a big conundrum right now because many of them want to really embrace Saquon Barkley. The comparisons last night were just nauseating, listening to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. All right, the guy has played all of 5 games in the NFL, and you start bringing up the word Barry Sanders. It's can we slow your roll on the whole Barry Sanders comparison after 5 NFL games? Let's be a little cautious there, okay? But Giant fans don't know. They want to embrace this guy. They want to love this guy, but at the same time, they can't seem to get out of their head the fact that they had an opportunity at Sam Darnold, at Josh Rosen, hell, even Baker Mayfield, if they could have pulled a deal off. There are any number of rookie quarterbacks that seem to be thriving right now in the NFL, while they're looking at a 105-year-old Eli Manning who can barely drop back, doesn't have any zip on the ball anymore, and they want to point fingers at him. They want to point fingers at the ownership. So it's a tough place to be a Giant fan right now because they really do like Saquon Barkley, and they want to support him, but at the same time, in the same breath, they're going, well, we should have had. So they would have liked Barkley with the number 28th pick, but when you have the number 2 pick in the draft and you could have gone out and gotten yourself a franchise quarterback, and there were a number of them available in this past draft. There's not going to be any of them available in this coming draft. You got to wait a couple of years before the next crop comes out. But that's the problem with Giant fans right now is they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. They want to get behind this guy so much. It's the only thing that they're happy about right now because the defense got smoked last night. Philadelphia just made them look ridiculous. Keep in mind, that game started off with a Philadelphia Eagle team going to be a road favorite, -3, heading into MetLife Stadium last night. And there was so much money that came in, it actually drove it to a pick'em just before kickoff. And it wasn't even close to a pick'em. It really wasn't. The better team, physically, mentally, better prepared, were definitely the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know Giant fans, you want to point fingers all day long at Eli Manning. I get it, but there's really no excuse from a coaching standpoint for Pat Shurmur and the rest of the coaching staff not to have that team ready on a short week at home, not to have them prepared to play, and they weren't prepared to play last night. It's as simple as that. They were out-coached. They were out-hustled. They were out everything. The only guy that gave the effort was Saquon Barkley last night, and it showed, obviously. The guy is just a beast. Very hard to take down. There's a lot of missed tackles on him. Hard to bring down, but outside of that, you've got more Odell Beckham Jr. drama walking off the field, before halftime there. That's all anybody was talking about on social media. And what a shock. Can you believe it? Odell Beckham Jr. being a diva and causing all sorts of controversy on the sidelines with his team. No kidding. But at some point, Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley are the Giants' best players. And I love how organizations do this and especially fans, you blame your best players for the problems that plague the team. And of all the issues that the Giants have got going on right now, Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley are absolutely not the issue. They are not the issue. They are the furthest thing from the problems that this team has right now. Don't forget, you got a first-year head coach and Pat Shurmur. Well, not a first year. It's been a while. It didn't work out all that well for him in Cleveland there to begin with. But you've got a guy there who is trying to figure it out. You completely dismantled the offensive line from a year ago. None of the 5 starters from a year ago are even on the team right now. You just got rid of Eric Flowers, who you kept pointing fingers out, talking about how this guy was the problem. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Jacksonville Jaguars scooped him right up and signed him, so he'll be playing for a playoff contending team now. So I'm sure Eric Flowers is like, yeah, thanks, Giants. Appreciate that. He's on his way to Jacksonville, which could mean that maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars don't like Blake Bortles as much as they say if they're going to have Eric Flowers blocking for him. I know what you're thinking, Giant fans. But you got 5 brand new offensive linemen there. You got defensive injuries across the board. Short week. And there's just no excuse for lack of effort. And a lot of what we saw last night was a lack of effort, a lack of mental toughness, and being able to show up ready to go against a division rival. And they had them beat from the first series on there. You can't exchange 3 points for 7 points. We know this. At least my math, you can. Maybe some other people's math, you can. But my math, you certainly can't. So as much as Giant fans want to hate Saquon, they hate Eli, they want to blame Odell Beckham Jr., but you got to start looking upstairs, and you got to start looking at the coaching staff and what they're doing right now, because those players got to start looking at themselves, too. There's no excuse. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. The effort was not the same that it was a week ago against the Carolina Panthers. It wasn't. And you were on the road there, and you almost came away with that victory. And then to lay an egg on a short week at home, national primetime game, which, by the way, did you guys see the stands? I mean, this was MetLife Stadium, Thursday night, primetime game, and the stands were half empty, man. They were half empty at a Giant game, and you got to look really far back to be able to find a stadium that looked like that on a primetime game. It's been a while, but Giant fans ain't coming out. They ain't buying the Eli Manning thing, and they're talking about everything else other than what they should be talking about, and not to mention probably one of the best troll jobs that I have seen in a very long time took place last night. Everybody is under the assumption, or everyone wants us to believe, Eli Manning is the issue. He can't play anymore. And then you got guys like Geno Smith who come out over the top last night, throwing this out on Twitter, saying, y'all owe my boy Mac an apology. And when I tell you, the internet just lit up. Now, you may recall last year, right, the Giants were struggling. They were 2-10. They couldn't get anything going offensively. The offensive line was putrid. The pass-catching crew there was totally depleted. OBJ was out for the season, and Eli Manning had to throw, and it was awful. He couldn't find anybody open, and when he did find people open, he was just completely off base. So Ben McAdoo made the decision to go, you know what? I've seen enough from Eli Manning. It's time to go to our backup, and that would have been Geno Smith at the time. So Geno Smith started that game against the Dallas Cowboys, and he was just as much a disaster as Eli was. The Giants lost. McAdoo was fired. Manning was back at the starting, as the starting quarterback the following week. And then they went out, got themselves a new coach. They got themselves a new general manager. And the clear idea was that Manning would start again for him this year. And they even passed on taking that quarterback at the number 2 position overall in the draft. And look at where they are now. They are absolutely a mess. And what they are saying, and don't forget, Giant fans, you're just as much to blame for this. You guys lost your shit last year when they put in Geno Smith and benched Eli Manning. Oh, my God, you're doing them dirty. I mean, you guys came to the defense of him big time last year. You were part of the reason that the Ben McAdoo experience was very, very short-lived over there. You know, here's a coach that had been with Manning for a couple of years, had seen that he wasn't the same guy, diminishing skills, but no. The minute they went with Geno Smith to try anything else, you guys went ballistic on him. Well, congratulations. You got Ben McAdoo fired. You ended up getting rid of Geno Smith and just about everybody else on the offense there, and you are just as worse, if not, well, you're just as bad, if not worse, than you were last year. So, Giant fans, you've got nobody to blame but yourselves. I don't know what else to tell you there, but how about Geno Smith, huh? y'all owe my boy Mac an apology. Hysterical. Did you even know he was on the Chargers? I didn't even know the guy was still playing, to tell you the truth. But apparently, he is the backup quarterback to Phillip Rivers. So I know they're hoping and praying in Philadelphia. I can tell you this right now. They're hoping and praying in San Diego, rather, that they don't need him, especially this weekend as they head to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Let's hope that you don't have to put Geno Smith in. Otherwise, there's a pretty good chance your season has gone hard left. So keep that in mind. But really, fantastic job with the trolling there, Gino. Very, very impressed with what you had there. But Giant fans, it's going to be a long, long, long remaining 10 games for you. It sure as hell is. All right, Miami Acura hotline up top, 855-WTF-2255. That is how you reach us. Also, you like what you're seeing there, make sure you guys like, subscribe, retweet, do all of that good stuff at WTF Sports TV, at Joe Raineri Show. Ralph Michaels is going to join us here in just a minute, wagertalk.com. We're going to talk about some of the big games from tomorrow, Saturday, of course, in college football, and then Sunday. We've got big divisional rivalries. We got Pittsburgh taking on Cincinnati. We got the game everyone is dying to see, Kansas City taking on New England. So we'll get Ralph Michaels' impression of what's going on. We'll get his thoughts and his picks on those games. That'll be coming up here in just a minute. But first, I do want to take a minute out to thank our good sponsors and our good friends over at Miami Acura. South Dixie Highway, Palmetto Bay in Miami. Those of you in the 305, you got to go take a test drive. It's the all-new 2019 RDX, completely redesigned. The damn thing almost drives itself. It's unbelievable. It's like floating and sitting in your living room while you're driving a car on your way to work. You got to go check it out. Deals like you've never seen before at the end of the year. They want to move these all-new 2019 RDXs. So now would be the time for you to go get that car you've always wanted, only getting it at a price you never thought were possible. That's what's happening at Miami Acura. So, South Dixie Highway, for those of you in the 305, those of you outside the Miami Pitbull area, simply go ahead and call them at 855-564-4669. That's 855-564-4669. All right, get your number 2 pencil ready out here. We had the opportunity yesterday to talk with our good friend Ralph Michaels from wagertalk.com, and we covered a lot of the games in not only college but in the NFL. So here is what he had to say about this weekend's slate of games. All right, Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com, joining us. How about another interdivision rivalry? Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, and boy, oh boy, you got two fan bases here going at each other. Cincinnati thinks this is the year. Historically, Pittsburgh has kind of owned this rivalry. What do you see this weekend?
Well, to me, this one's simple. At the beginning of the year, I had Pittsburgh significantly better than Cincinnati. And in fact, in Vegas, the preseason number, which you could bet into, was Pittsburgh -4. Now you have Pittsburgh, a division-away dog, for the first time in over 4 years. And one handicapping tool that I rarely go against, if I have the better team that is looking up at their opponent in the standings, as Pittsburgh is 2-1, looking up at 4-1 Cincinnati, to me it's normally a play. And you look at the Bengals, and yes, they are 4-1, and people believe in them, but that Cincinnati's Bengal team is getting outgained by 27 yards per game, and they're getting out first down on the season. Those are not the stats of a 4-1 team. It's a must-win for Pittsburgh, and you know, if Pittsburgh loses this, think about it. They lost to Baltimore, they tied Cleveland, and they'll lose to Cincinnati. They'll be out of any potential tiebreaker at all for anything moving forward with that division record. So you want to put a must-win sign on, it's certainly on the Steelers.
Yes, it certainly is. Ralph Michaels joining us, wagertalk.com. Make sure you follow Ralph, too. Some amazing stuff at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. Always has some amazing information there on his Twitter account. All right, Kansas City, New England. Man, oh, man, people been jumping up and down. The line has kind of been all over the place, but we've got Kansas City here actually getting points as a 5-0 team. That doesn't happen very much, does it, Ralph?
Nope, and you must have been on my Twitter feed following, because Since 1989, the last 30 years, only 6 teams have been 5-0 and been a dog in Game 6. In that situation, they're 3-3 ATS, so the number's not going to be something that you could bet on, but for those people that wanted to know what the answer is, that's it. One thing I can tell you, though, is that New England is in a situation that's been over 63% profitable with a third straight home game, so a big scheduling edge as well. You know, again, I look at this Chiefs team, and hey, they burned me the last 2 weeks. I've played against them, and I've certainly been wrong. But as a whole, I mean, again, the Sharps are going to continue to line up against Kansas City because despite being 5-0, you have the worst defense in all of football, and you're getting outgained by 59 yards per game.
Yeah, that's the truth. The numbers don't lie there. Ralph Michaels joining us, wagertalk.com. You know, one of these games, too, Ralph, over the weekend that it doesn't – people are going to love Cleveland now, right? People are going to jump all over it now. Recency bias. Cleveland is going to be everyone's darling. They want to root for them. They want to win, but I'm not too sure that we're going to be able to put a winning streak together here this week. What do you think about the Cleveland Browns?
You know, I am a diehard Browns fan. I was born and raised in Cleveland for 50 years and just moved out to Vegas recently. And while I love the Browns, they have to learn how to play differently off a win. It takes a lot to learn how to be a favorite and win in that favorites role or a small dog role. You know, if you look at their situations, the New York Jets, Baker Mayfield came in at halftime. The Oakland game, Baker Mayfield had multiple interceptions and the O-line struggled. And then against Baltimore, they were behind and they had to come from behind to tie Baltimore and win in overtime. I haven't seen them yet have a lead, be comfortable with that lead. They blew a big lead in Oakland, and that's the problem why I can't back them in these close kind of games. I mean, San Diego is playing well. Yes, it's a long trip, but, you know, let's be honest. These trips nowadays for these players are nothing like they used to be. You're getting on a fancy jet, you're relaxing for a few hours, you're watching a movie, and you're landing in Cleveland. So I don't take anything into consideration for East and West Coast. You know, the time difference is a little bit early for them, but again, these are pros that have been doing it for a while. I like the way Phillips Rivers is playing with an 11-2 ratio. Melvin Gordon got it going the last couple weeks. I mean, they're rushing for 116 yards per game. That's enough to get it done. I just don't have that faith in the Browns, so I'd have to fade him in this role.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, another team, too, is not what it appears to be. The Monday night game, Green Bay, San Francisco. You know, listen, you look at the San Francisco, a lot of people go, that's it. They lost, they lost Garoppolo. It's going to be a down season. But this is a real defense on the San Francisco 49ers. And C.J. Beathard, at least from a number standpoint, Ralph, it's not that big a drop-off from Jimmy Garoppolo, is it?
Well, you look what he did last week, and he had over 400 yards in that win. In the loss. But you look back at Garoppolo only beat those stats once out of all the starts, and that came the last game of the year last year against the Rams when the Rams were resting everyone. So I believe the San Francisco team is for real. And if you look at last week and you're going to say, well, how can San Francisco play with Green Bay when they lost at home to Arizona, one of the worst teams? Take a look at the stats. 447 to 220-yard edge. That's plus 227 yards. They had over double the yards. And more importantly to me, 33 to 10 first down edge. Now, Baltimore has some injuries, and they've come from behind, but you look at what they've done. I mean, they trailed Chicago in the opener 17-0. They trailed Detroit 24-0. They trailed Washington 28-10. All those situations where they had to come from behind and won the game. Now, one interesting stat that I just tweeted again for those that want to follow is that Green Bay does have a bye on deck. And those teams that are a home favorite with a bye on deck since 2014 have won and covered 68% of their games. So when you have the better team and you know you have a bye on deck, it seems they do give that little extra effort.
Yes, they do. Ralph Michaels, make sure you follow him at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. Michigan Big Ten, Michigan, Wisconsin. Michigan opens up as a -7 favorite, and a lot of sharp money comes in, drives it up to 8.5 at this point. Is it that simple, or are we looking at Michigan just being the better team in the better spot here?
You know, Michigan's been down for so many years, and there's so many Michigan fans that they just wait to jump on the Wolverines when the situation is right. You know, they lost to Notre Dame. Now, you know, if they played that again, it probably would even be a worse loss with Ian Book playing for the Irish. But, you know, wins over Western Michigan 49-3, over SMU 45-20 aren't impressive to me. They had one tough game at Northwestern. They did win that game 20-17. But this Wisconsin team, people think they lost to BYU, and oh my God, what's happened to them? Well, they've rushed for 600 yards the last two games, averaging 4.8 yards at Iowa, which is a very tough place to play. And against Nebraska, they rushed for 370 yards, 7.7 yards per carry. When I have a good defensive team like Wisconsin is, and you could run the ball, slow the clock down, and I'm getting over a touchdown, that's the side I'm going to back. You know, and one of the other games we've got this weekend, I don't think we've seen this in a very long time, but Northwestern opened up at -9 against Nebraska, and now we're looking at -3.5 with the amount of money that's coming in. Are we overvaluing Northwestern and undervaluing Nebraska, or is Nebraska just hot garbage? Well, you know, the Sharps have been on Nebraska the entire year. I mean, and it's just amazing that this team is 0-5 straight up. Scott Frost comes from UCF and is the only undefeated team in college football, and now he goes to 0-5 to Nebraska, where the alum doesn't have that much patience. But you look at their games, I mean, the offense has gotten going. Martinez missed a game, and that was a struggle early on in the year. They struggled at Michigan, only putting up 132 yards. But against Purdue, they had 582 yards. And against Wisconsin, a very good defense, they had 518 yards. So their stats say they are a much better team than that 3-2. And then you look at Northwestern, you know, I'm not sure why this line moved as much as it did. My line is Northwestern 6. So because the line moved, I favor Northwestern, but I still think Nebraska has some value moving forward because of the 0-5 record, but very positive stats in the rushing game. You know, one final game I want to throw you away, Ralph, something that I've had circled and put a red line under, and I don't understand it, but you've got number 19 Colorado heading out to USC. And Colorado's getting 7 points. And, you know, watching both of these teams this year, I'm not sure that Colorado should be getting 7 points, or USC in this situation, even at home, should be laying that kind of number. Am I crazy here? I mean, we are looking at the Pac-12 South title, basically, in this game. But I like Colorado a lot in this situation. Well, you know, nobody gave Colorado credit, and really they didn't deserve any credit until last week when they beat Oregon State. Remember, they were the team that had the fewest returning starters. They only returned 10 starters this year, 4 on the offensive side, 6 on the defensive side. You know, they started with Colorado State, who got beat against Hawaii the week before. They went to Nebraska without Martinez. They played New Hampshire, and then they played a UCLA team that we saw wasn't very good in the new Chip Kelly offense. But again, against Arizona State, they did what they had to. They had a 25-18 first down edge. They had a 494 to 367 yard edge. And no team has been more disappointing the last half of a decade than USC. This team can recruit in the top 5 every year. But what do we see them do? Well, we see them win games and not cover. They had the Stanford and Texas are straight-up losses. And the home games, though, UNLV, they won by 18, laying 28. Washington State, they had to come from behind. They got outgained in that game. And at Arizona last week, they eke out a 4-point win. USC now is 2-7 as a home favorite the last 2 seasons. I agree with you that Colorado can keep this game closer, and when you have USC as a favorite, I mean, an outright upset is never a very strong call to make.
Yeah, no, and I like Montez. I think they've got the better quarterback, and I think there's a little bit there's some value here with Colorado. So it's going to be a fun weekend for sure to watch. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Make sure you check him out at Cal Sports LV. Ralph, always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Good luck with the games this week. We'll talk again.
Looking forward to talking to you next Thursday. Thanks.
You got it. All right, Ralph Michaels, can't thank him enough. WagerTalk.com for stopping by. Some great stuff there. So really, knowledge is power. How many times have we told you that? And if it's the knowledge you need, no better place to go than WagerTalk.com. Not only do you have access to guys like Ralph, there's close to 24 of those guys that are available at your fingertips that you can utilize in order to be able to make your picks during the weekend. So go get the knowledge, WagerTalk.com. Great stuff there. Thank him so very much. He joins us each and every Thursday here on the show. And if you miss it Thursday, don't worry about it. We bring him back here on Friday to make sure that we catch all the games, especially the games that matter, that stand out the most. And we've got college football tonight. We've got, of course, Major League Baseball getting ready to go. We're going to talk about those games, plus the trends that matter. There are a whole lot of trends right now in some of these games that you need to know in order to make some informed decisions. We're going to go over a bunch of them. Plus, we'll talk about a little bit of the Dolphins' dilemma right now as they get ready. Is it a trap situation for the Chicago Bears? You heard us talk about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but there's a few other games that have people's eyebrows raised a little bit this weekend, so we're going to talk about that. But first, of course, we've got to thank our sponsors for making this a possibility. Low-cost airline, Superior Cruise and Travel, and, of course, our friends from Miami Acura. We want to thank them very much. They support us. We certainly hope that you will support them. So coming up in just about 2 minutes, well, exactly 2 minutes, in fact, we'll go ahead. We'll talk about tonight's college football game, what side you should be laying, and then we'll tell you exactly what you got to pick this weekend. That's coming up next. Don't go nowhere.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less.
800-663-5107. 800-663-5107. That's 800-663-5107.
It's football season. Better get your honey-do list done and get ready to talk sports. It's the Say It With Me podcast. Here's Joe Raineri.
Turn that mic on. That'll be great. Yes, welcome in. Happy Friday to you. Get a little football fix going for you today. We got some picks. We got all sorts of valuable information that you need to know about these games around the NFL. We want to thank, first and foremost, our friends that are hanging out with us here on social media. Jeremy, Tracy, Brian, you guys rule. Cooper, thank you very much for stopping by here. You guys know each and every Thursday we start this at 4 o'clock, and we just go. We have a good time for an hour or so, and we try to provide you as much sports content, educational content, entertaining content as humanly possible in the world of sports. So we ask that you go ahead and please share our show here with your friends. Go ahead, hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all of that good stuff for us. We'd certainly appreciate it. Also, the number to reach us here on the show, 855-WTF-2255. That is how you reach us. That is 855-WTF-2255. Now, baseball tonight, getting ready to take center stage as Well, I guess we're looking at the National League, right? Clayton Kershaw going to be on the mound. Dodgers getting ready to take on the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee. And I can tell you right now, I think it's all safe to say that Major League Baseball is hoping and praying that Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers take care of business, and then the Red Sox do the same against the Houston Astros, because if we're honest, outside of people in Milwaukee and Houston, nobody in their right mind gives a rip about the Milwaukee Brewers or the Houston Astros, much less going to spend time watching a World Series with those two in it. Now, the Dodgers and the Red Sox, they'll move the needle. We will definitely see a increase in ratings. Major League Baseball will, if we can get those two teams going. And I know Major League Baseball is going to be watching these games going, it's a nice story. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that we've got small market teams competing for a championship here in Major League Baseball. But the reality is, you need the Red Sox and you need the Dodgers, because nobody in their right mind is going to watch the Astros and the Milwaukee Brewers play in a World Series. It's just not going to happen. In terms of how, and just to go to show you, in terms of how valuable these franchises are, when you think about it, the Dodgers are number 2 in all of baseball. They've got a $3 billion worth as a franchise. The Brewers are number 23. They're worth just about $1 billion. And then in the American League, the Red Sox are number 5, 2.8 in value. In Houston, they're number 11, 1.6. So there is a huge gap in terms of the value of these teams. And value also means popularity. And the popularity of the 4 teams remaining tells us that in order to be able to get eyeballs to television screens or to phones, we need the Dodgers and we need the Red Sox in the game. Now, I don't necessarily know that that's going to be the best matchup. I do know it's going to be the most profitable for Major League Baseball. It's certainly going to be the best way to be able to take eyeballs off of college and the NFL for a week and a half or so and be able to put it on that series. But, yeah, no, it's Red Sox won 108 games, and you have the defending World Series champ, Houston Astros, who won 103. And quite honestly, Houston's better than it was last year when they won the team. They hit, they can pitch, they can field. The bullpen is ridiculous. The Brewers, on the other hand, they're the hottest team in baseball right now. They have a bullpen that will shut anybody down. All they need to get is 3 or 4 innings out of their starters. They go to the bullpen, and the bullpen is lights out. Not to mention they have the best player in all of baseball this year in Christian Yelich, and I'm sorry about that, Marlins fans. But yes, this is a guy that almost won the Triple Crown. This was a guy that used to be a Miami Marlin, in fact, and then got a little huffy and puffy once Derek Jeter and company came in and decided to sell off all the assets and dismantle the team. And Christian Yelich, they didn't want to get rid of him, but at the end, Christian Yelich's like, I got to go. I can't stay here. Like, what am I doing here? And so they sent him off to Milwaukee, and I think it worked out pretty damn well for the Milwaukee Brewers and certainly for Christian Yelich. But if you're talking ratings, then outside of the Milwaukee diehards and the Houston Astro diehard fans, nobody is going to really – they'd rather watch a Sun Belt Conference game on a Tuesday night than have to watch the Milwaukee Brewers play baseball. And it's a shame because diehard baseball players, diehard baseball fans – this would be a very fun matchup. It really would be. The Milwaukee Brewers and the Houston Astros. Again, Houston Astros could very well be the best damn team in all of baseball. They are better than they were last year when they won the World Series. But the problem is nobody gives a shit, and nobody really wants to watch them win again. I mean, it's nice because Justin Verlander will go out, and then his girlfriend will be on screen behind home plate, and you get a shot or two from that, and it's nice. But outside of that, it's the Red Sox and the Dodgers all the way. And can we give it up to the Dodgers, too, by the way? I mean, the Dodgers finally in a position to be able to make it to the World Series. They've been this close. Clayton Kershaw has been the dominant best pitcher in the National League, if not all of sports. For how long now? He managed to turn around his playoff jinx there last year, was just dominant and lights out, although he couldn't get it done a few years prior to that. But the Dodgers and the Astros, another side note that you should want to know, there are no more I think I read the article. These two teams are the biggest analytical monsters in all of baseball, meaning that they are so into analytics. They are so into number crunching that it's ridiculous. And a lot of people, a lot of insiders say that the Houston Astros, like you walk into that complex, you go into there, the analytics are everywhere. So the Dodgers are the same way. They are big-time analytics. They've brought in general managers, and they've brought in people in the scouting department that are all number crunchers, and that's pretty much where the game has gotten to this particular point. It's all about number crunching. The years of the Terry Franconas and the Mike Sochas and, having great baseball managers, it doesn't really make a damn bit of difference anymore. The only thing you need to be as a manager in Major League Baseball is able to write down the starting lineup on the lineup card, and you're going to be getting that from, of course, upstairs where the general manager and the analytics guys hovering around the computer waiting for it to spit out what the best matchups are. Yeah, that's all you have to do. It's kind of like being a waiter or wait. You just sit there and take the order from the general manager, and that's what you have in Major League Baseball these days. So it's unfortunate, but keep that in mind. That's where this sport is headed, and that's where it is right now. And then you look at a team like the Yankees who kind of got over-analyticked, and it ended up screwing them up because the way they built the team, per the numbers, per the analytics, was to hit a lot of home runs and to win games. And it worked 90% of the time this year. And the 10% of the time it didn't work was in the series against the Boston Red Sox last week, where they lost games 3 and 4. And congratulations, your analytics won you 100 games, but it also has you playing golf now while the Red Sox, the Houston Astros, the Dodgers, and the Milwaukee Brewers continue to play baseball. Jeremy joins us in here. Jeremy, what is going on, my man? New York Giants season is done, 1-5. Yeah, it is pretty much done, Jeremy. No way around that. We talked about that a little bit earlier. If you're just joining us here, the Giants are stuck in purgatory. They are stuck in mediocrity hell. They don't know what to do. They've got an aging quarterback that Ben McAdoo nailed a year ago or so, and he tried to move on from Eli Manning, except Giant fans wouldn't let him, and he got roasted for doing that. And congratulations, now you've come to the realization that you had the number 2 pick in the draft, and as much as you love Saquon Barkley and Giant fans want to embrace this guy, but at the same time, they can't get the taste out of their mouth that they could have had a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. They could have had a franchise quarterback with the number 2 pick. And listen, they're going to suck this year, and there's a good chance that if they only win 1 or 2 games, there's a very good chance that the Giants will be at the top of the draft board again next year. The only problem is there's no quarterbacks coming out. There's no franchise quarterbacks coming out next year that are going to be able to help the organization, not like they had the opportunity to do this year. So Dave Gettleman, the new general manager, he's got some answering to do. And my question to Giant fans is, how much longer do you wait before you pull the trigger and you kind of see what you have in the backup quarterback situation there? And who is it? Lynetta? I can't even pronounce the guy. I have no idea. But he was a late-round draft pick for the New York Giants. So how much longer do you move on from him? And the same thing with the Denver Broncos. Like, how much longer do you wait before you let Chad Kelly get in there and see what he has? Because Case Keenum is not the future of the Denver Broncos. So how many more games do you have to lose, Denver, before you start to dabble in the Chad Kelly era? And listen, let's face it, the kid was really good during the preseason, won the number 2 job, and he certainly has the genes for it, being the nephew of Jim Kelly. So it's not as if he can't play. He has shown he can play. The question is, how many more games do you have to lose before you go, yeah, it's time to see what the future is all about? Same thing with Miami, too. I don't know how many more games, although Miami at least rattled off 3 victories. They've bought themselves some time. But they walk into a game this weekend where it's got trap written all over it for the Chicago Bears, too. The Chicago Bears right now, 3.5-point favorites in that game. And listen, they are, if nothing else, they are very resilient, the Miami Dolphins, at home. And they've been told now how bad they suck for the last couple of weeks. They are at home. Chicago's coming off a bye. They still have Mitchell Trubisky, who is not exactly a world beater, although he looked like it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of weeks ago. But then again, you and I could look like world beaters against that defense and that secondary for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting. Will Kenyon Drake, will the Dolphins be able to run the ball finally on that defense? Probably not. But I'm not necessarily sure that we're looking at a Chicago Bears team that can do what they have to do, win all three facets of the game, and end up pulling out the victory. So that's one of those games where, if you can get over 3 with the Miami Dolphins, that might not be a bad way to go. Tonight, there is also a game, college. Tonight, we've got, let me make sure I've got the game right. We've got South Florida taking on Tulsa. And Tulsa is coming off a just awful performance against Houston, and they play another one of those top-tier AAC teams at South Florida. Now, the line opened up at -7.5. It has stayed around that number. It has dropped to -7 earlier in the week, but it is back up to 7.5 in some books. And listen, Tulsa's not a very good team. I mean, they're just not. And yes, they played pretty good last week against Houston, or at least kept it close. Houston wasn't able to cover that game. But listen, Tulsa is not in the same category as South Florida. As a matter of fact, a lot of the power rankings that I've seen, this should be more -12, -13 for USF. So the fact that USF, I'm getting the better team and I'm actually getting less points, I only have to cover by a touchdown or more, or a little more than that. I don't see how there is any reason not to take South Florida at -7, -7.5 tonight, because from a defensive standpoint, offensive standpoint, I can tell you right now, I know the reason why so many people are betting Tulsa is because of that Houston game, nationally televised game last week, but it was one of the most misleading scores of the week, and you got a quarterback that only finished 13 of 31, and they got 3 first-half turnovers, and they kicked field goals. That's the only reason why they were able to keep in that game. So this is not, and I repeat, not a very good Tulsa team. It should be closer to 2 touchdowns. South Florida should be favored, and if you can get 7, 7.5, I'm all over Tulsa tonight. So you guys can take that and take that to the bank. And I'll also tell you another very interesting game. Air Force and San Diego State are getting ready to take on tonight. Air Force, actually San Diego State is a 10.5-point favorite in this game. And listen, you can make the argument that both teams might come out a little flat, especially because they both coming off of actually pretty big wins last week. San Diego State pulled off the upset over Boise State, and then you had the Air Force beat the Navy Academy last week. So both of these teams are coming off of monster wins last week. But when you look at the trends, and this is what we love about the trends here, Air Force in the past is just 2-15 against the spread in its last 17 games after facing either Army or Navy. So it's usually a letdown the following week with Air Force after they come out of a game with Army or Navy. And listen, Air Force could come out energized and they could stop a team that has beaten, the Falcons 7 straight times. But I ultimately think the spread spot looks 10.5. I kind of like the over-under better if I'm going to look at this, due to the fact that the Air Force has been able to hold opponents to just about 3 yards per rush this season, which is tied for 24th nationally. You don't realize how good the defense for Air Force has been, certainly against the run. San Diego State is a run-first offense. They rank 6th in the country in the run rate, so they are going to be, and of course Air Force, their passing defense is horrifying, but San Diego State doesn't have an offense to be able to exploit the secondary of Air Force in this game. That's not how they're built. Both of these teams, Air Force and the triple option, both of these teams are not geared to be able to air it out. This ain't a running gun spread type offense at all. Both of these teams did combine for 52 points last season, I will say that, but 29 of them came in the fourth quarter. So if I'm looking at a play here tonight in this game, if I was a betting man, which I am, but if I was a betting man, I would expect the clock to continue to move rather quickly in this game with both of these running offenses, run-first offenses. I would think they're going to try to grind out drives. I think if you're into punting, you are going to love tonight's game. Special teams are going to be a big factor, but I don't think they come anywhere near the number, which is 44 tonight. So if I was a betting man, I would take the under tonight at 44, 44 and a half if you can get it. As a matter of fact, I would hurry up and get on that because chances are the sharp money is going to come in here late and drive this number down even further. But at 44 or 45, if you can get it, yeah, neither one of these teams is going to be airing anything out. They don't know how to do it. They're just going to keep trying to run into each other, and neither one of these defenses are going to allow that to happen. So I anticipate there's not going to be a lot of incomplete passes where the clock is going to stop. I think you're going to have a situation tonight where these two teams are going to be punting back, and they're going to exchange punts. So the under is good. I do like USF -7, -7.5. Lay the points tonight for them, and then if you want to parlay that, go ahead and do so with the under tonight for San Diego State versus the Air Force Academy. But keep in mind, again, the numbers aren't very good historically for Air Force. Just 2-15 against the number, against the spread, in the last 17 games after they've faced Army or Navy, and they beat Navy last week. So just throwing that out there. Keep that in mind, all right? Don't say I didn't tell you so. I want to say hello to Brian, who is joining us via YouTube Live. Thank you very much, Brian. It's always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. Giant fans are in mourning, from what I understand. Is that correct? Yeah, Brian is a Giants fan. He doesn't want to hear about it. It's a lot of F Eli, but you can't blame Eli, man. Don't blame Eli. It's not Eli's fault. I blame Giant fans because you guys caused such a ruckus last year. That's right, a ruckus. That's what you caused last year by blasting Ben McAdoo for sitting him and starting Geno Smith. And the funny part is if Geno Smith would have went out and actually won the game, then Eli Manning, in all likelihood, would not be on this team. It would have been retired. We would have moved on from Eli Manning. But because Geno Smith looked like such hot garbage last year, as a matter of fact, we've got a picture from last year's game when Geno Smith was starting for Eli Manning. There you go. Yeah, that was Geno Smith. That's about what it looked like when Geno Smith started last year for the New York Giants, and when you sat Eli Manning after you were already, 2-8, or you had 10 losses already or something along those lines. But that's what you looked like. And Geno, I got to give him credit, man. Y'all owe my boy Mac an apology. Over the top last night. Geno, over the top, haymaker. Didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming, but that is what he blasted on Twitter after the game last night. And boy, oh boy, when I tell you there was a lot of people having fun with that. Ben McAdoo all of a sudden doesn't look like half the idiot that most of you thought he was. But it's your own fault. You wanted Eli. Congratulations, you got Eli. Miami Acura number 855-WTF-2255. Your thoughts on the games this weekend, plus any of the college games. What are your thoughts on the Giants? Would love to hear from you. 855-WTF-2255. There's also, I'll give you a couple of other interesting trends right now in college and let you know what's going on. Some of the trends that stood out to me for college football. Penn State Nittany Lions. Where are my Penn State Nittany Lion fans? Raise your hand. Here's what you've got right now. Here's the trend that stuck out to me. Penn State 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 games when they have been favored by 10.5 to 21 points. They're 16-8 against the spread in the last 24 as a favorite. And that is exactly the position that they find themselves in right now. Now, Penn State lost twice last year, and one of those losses was to Michigan State on the road. This year, they're going to get the Spartans at home. That's a whiteout, people. That's a whole different ball game than playing Michigan State on the road. They've got them at home, and the Spartans are awful. I mean, they're just absolutely terrible. Michigan State, not a good year for them. They have been outclassed at home by Northwestern, which entered this week with a losing record, or entered last week, rather, with a losing record. Penn State did not beat Ohio State a few weeks ago, but James Franklin's team was up 26-13. He should have won that game. I don't know what that fourth down call was. We're still trying to figure it out. But Penn State, to me, looks like they're in a good position to hold up as the favorite in this game, keeping in mind that they are 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 when they are favored by more than 10.5 points. So 16-8 over the last 24 in that position. It does look like Penn State's going to have a very easy time with Michigan State. The other game to keep in mind is the Georgia Bulldogs. This is a monster game for the SEC. Georgia taking on LSU. The Bulldogs are 6-1 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. So the Bulldogs are also 14-3 against the spread in their last 17 road games against a team with a winning record. So they're heading into Louisiana. They are going to be on the road at LSU. LSU is coming off of just a tough loss on the road in the Swamp in a game that they, in all likelihood, probably should have won. LSU's Tiger Stadium is probably, if not the hardest road game that Georgia is going to play all year. Georgia is the better team, make no mistake about it, but they continue to make an awful lot of mistakes. Kirby Smart hasn't cleaned them up yet. There's an awful lot of mistakes that have been marring this team over the last few games, and LSU could very well at home rise up and pull this upset off. I do like Georgia against the pick, especially since they're 6-1 against the spread versus teams with winning records, and 14-3 against the spread on the road against those teams with winning records. So they are good. I mean, they've been inconsistent. Week 6 against Vanderbilt was a little better than what they have been, but then again, it's Vanderbilt, so they were sloppy against Missouri in September, and they were off to a slow start out of the gate against South Carolina a few weeks ago before turning it on in the second half. So you just don't know what you're going to get from Georgia, but I do like them in this spot right now on the road against LSU. I do think that they'll be able to cover the spread and be able to work their magic. They are the better team in this situation, and I think they have the better coaching staff, and that makes a hell of a difference in college football. Here's an interesting trend for you. Notre Dame 9-22 against the spread in the last 31 when favored by 21.5 to 31. So when they're in that meat and potatoes there, 21.5 to 31 points, Notre Dame is awful. They are not very good at covering when more than 3 touchdowns. You get to that 3 to 4 touchdown Notre Dame favorite angle, yeah, they're not very good. However, they're playing a awful Pittsburgh team. They've been bad most of the season. They've got no receivers, really not. I mean, they've got a bad secondary for the past few years. They haven't done a very good job in being able to recruit there. Notre Dame has a quarterback now, Ian Book. If you guys haven't seen him, this is a guy that it's no more of these read option. This is a guy that can actually throw the ball and push the ball downfield, and Notre Dame has got some receivers. So I do think that Notre Dame is going to be able to rise above here and be able to kind of put their foot on the gas, their foot on the throats of Pittsburgh, and I can definitely see them being fine in this position. And one of the best jobs that they ever did was I think Pitt would have had a better job if Brandon Wimbush was the quarterback. But since Brian Kelly pulled the trigger on that, this team has done nothing, Ian Book, but be able to push the ball down the field. They're going to be able to score. Pittsburgh's not going to be able to do a great job on offense. They just got blown out against Georgia Tech. That was abysmal. Georgia Tech threw up 60 on them. So they are not a very good defensive team. I do think this game is going to be a blowout, and I don't think they'll have a problem covering the 22.5 points that they're going to be laying. And one of the last games, I think, one of the last trends that you guys need to know about is the Oregon Ducks, who are 4-1 against their last 5 games following a bye week. They did have off last week. The Washington Huskies, who they're playing, well, they're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 road games. And not to mention that Washington has been all over the place. This game lines up perfectly for Oregon right now. Having the bye against Washington just played at UCLA and LA. Then they had to fly back home. They're going to make another trip now to Eugene. Oregon's been sitting home, getting well rested, so they'll be fresher. Washington is not going to be as fresh as Oregon is. I do think Oregon has the best quarterback, if not the best player. Justin Herbert is playing better than Jake Browning is, even though Jake Browning's been there a little bit longer. The battle of the quarterbacks, I'll give it to the well-rested. I think Justin Herbert has had a much better year thus far than Jake Browning. I think the Ducks are a pretty good choice here, especially the fact that they are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games following a bye week. So expect Oregon to come out and be able to take care of business against the Washington Huskies. All right, how was that, huh? We did a pretty good job of rattling through those trends for you in college football. Now, we've got some NFL picks and some trends that we want to go over for you guys. So do want to remind you here also, if you haven't had the chance, make sure you stop by, check out my good friends at wagertalk.com. We talked to Ralph Michaels yesterday. I played you some of his picks a little bit earlier in the show today. If you missed it, don't worry about it. You guys follow us at Joe Raineri Show, at WTF Sports TV. You'll have access to it. Ralph kind of lays out what's going on this weekend in college football as well as the NFL. Some great insight from him and great insight from the other dozen or so handicappers they have at wagertalk.com. Knowledge is power, people. I tell you this all the time. Don't go and just flip a coin and make bets, all right? Professional sports handicappers, they don't play teams, they don't play emotions, they play numbers. It's all about a numbers game when it comes to sports betting, and nobody's got better information, free information, even free picks than wagertalk.com. Plus, they've got over a dozen or so of the best professional sports handicappers in the country that you have access to. So do yourself a favor, head over to wagertalk.com today, all right? Make sure you check it out. Do a little reading, all right? Take your phone when you're, you go into the crapper. Take your phone, do a little reading, all right? Some great stuff there. Kelly in Vegas, she does amazing work there, interviewing all of the bookmakers in Las Vegas. Some great stuff there. And we love our affiliation and our partnership with wagertalk.com. So we want to pass that information along to you. Jeremy, what are you saying? Geno? Geno Smith, can't blame Geno for going on. Listen, I didn't even know Geno Smith was still in the NFL. How many of you even knew that? I had no idea. I thought he was opening up a car wash or something. I had heard. I had no idea this guy is backing up Phillip Rivers in the Cleveland in San Diego against the Cleveland Browns, no less. So, all right. As a matter of fact, speaking of that game, why don't we do what we have to take a. All right, we got to take a quick break. We got to thank a few more of our sponsors here today, including our friends at Miami Acura. We love our peeps at Miami Acura. South Dixie Highway, Palmetto Bay in the 305. If you or somebody you know is in the market for a brand new car, let us suggest to you the all-new, completely redesigned 2019 RDX. Why? Because it's like driving in your damn living room. That's why. Not to mention, they're practically giving the truck away. The deals have never been better all year round. You got to go take it for a test drive. You'll understand exactly what everyone is talking about. It's got every bell and whistle you could possibly imagine. I'm telling you, it is a smooth ride, the kind that you don't get every day. That's why you got to go feel it and test it yourself. Miami Acura, the only place to go. The best deals, the all-new 2019 RDX. Call them, 855-564-4669. Tell Deborah, say, listen, Deborah, I'm watching Joe. He says, I got to come and take this 2019 RDX for a test drive. He says, you're going to cut me a deal. And I promise she won't hang up the phone and go, Joe who? She'll know who I am, I promise. Call them at 855-564-4669. 4669. For those of you in the 954 and the 305, you guys know where they are. South Dixie Highway, Palmetto Bay. Just head out towards Kendall. You can't miss them. The only place I would ever send you would be Miami Acura. 855-564-4669. All right, now let's see if we can't also thank some of our other sponsors, Resort Release, Laser Spine Institute, and Dish TV. We can't thank them enough for making it all possible. They make it, listen, they hang out with us, you hang out with them, and we all live happily ever after. So let's see if we can get some of these spots here to play. That would be so much better if we could. And we'll be back here in just 2 minutes to be able to go over some of these NFL games coming up just about 5 past the hour here on a Friday football fix and picks. And we'll get you those picks coming up next.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less.
800-663-5107. 800-663-5107. That's 800-663-5107.
Where do you want to go on a vacation or honeymoon? The Caribbean, Europe, Hawaii, Mexico? How about Disney or a cruise? At Superior Cruise and Travel, we've got you covered. We'll assign you your own travel concierge. They'll help you design a custom vacation plan that you can't find online. And the service is completely free. You can't compare the value of this to any other online travel company. We can help you plan a custom vacation anywhere in the world. We even offer payment plans with no credit card required. Now you pay off your vacation on your time schedule. Call now and mention the promo code RADIO and save up to $500. Book your custom trip. Call Superior Cruise and Travel now and talk to one of the highest rated travel agencies in the country with a 5-star A+ online rating.
800-901-5536. 800-901-5536. 800-901-5536. That's 800-901-5536.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-898-0816. 800-898-0816. 800-898-0816. That's 800-898-0816.
Back pain doesn't take vacations. It never celebrates holidays. It's on the job 24/7 to keep your life exactly where it is, in limbo. But it doesn't have to be that way, because Laser Spine Institute can help you take back your life from chronic neck and back pain. With a less than 1-inch incision, our minimally invasive procedures have provided relief to over 60,000 patients with a 97% patient satisfaction rate. So get ready to stand tall and live the life you've imagined for yourself without pain. Are you or a loved one suffering from a bulging disc, herniated disc, spinal stenosis, pinched nerve, or degenerative disc disease? Call our spine care consultants now for a no-cost MRI review and to learn more. It's time to say goodbye to chronic neck and back pain. What have you got to lose? Laser Spine Institute, the leader in minimally invasive spine surgery.
Call 855-720-BACK. 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 That's 855-720-BACK.
Don't be such a pussy. Subscribe to the Say It With Me podcast with Joe Raineri on iTunes today.
Miami Acura hotline 855-WTF-2255. That is how you reach us here on the show. Want to get your thoughts about this weekend's game. What is the game that you are looking most forward to seeing so far this weekend? Which one? Is it college? Are you going Michigan and Wisconsin? Big Ten football? Are you looking forward to Miami and Virginia, a little ACC football? Or are you looking forward to, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New England Patriots? I want to hear from you guys. 855-WTF-2255. Also, want to hear from you, crazy Giant fans. What's going on here? Are you going to root for the Jets now Is that what's going to happen? Will Giant fans actually bite the bullet and root for the New York Jets and keep it in New York, or are you guys going to go outside and root for Dallas or somebody else there? So hit us up, 855-983-2255. That is the number, 855-983-2255. That's the number here into the show. Let's talk a little bit here about some of the games coming up this week. And I told you, Geno Smith with that fantastic troll job there of the New York Giants, and Ben McAdoo, hysterical there last night. But he is the backup quarterback to the Los Angeles Chargers, who are on the road at the Cleveland Browns. So let's talk about the trends that you need to know in this game. First of all, since 2003, no stadium has treated the under better than First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. Okay? The under, since 2003, 74-47-1. That's 61% at the dog pound. Okay? Love that. The over-under in this game, 45 points. Not only has the under been profitable in Cleveland, but another reason to bet the under is the weather in this game. Okay? Why? The forecast calls for winds averaged of 13 to 15 miles an hour during the game. Why is that significant? Because since 2003, NFL games with an average wind of 10 miles per hour or more, the under, 439, 351, and 10. That's 56%. So in this particular game, I would absolutely look at the weather, okay, before kickoff, before deciding what you are going to do, because metrics matter and trends matter. And in this particular situation, if that wind is kicking up and you're going to have 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, then the under has been very profitable since 2003. Also, you're in the right stadium being in 2003. So my suggestion, go ahead, under 45. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the weather. That's what I like about in this game. Listen, Cleveland is struggling at both tackle spots right now. They've got some issues there, but they don't have any Joey Bosa. So the San Diego Chargers could really use Joey Bosa. Their 4-3 without him is just not the same. It's not the same whatsoever. They do have Melvin Ingram, the Chargers, there, so it looks like the Cleveland Browns will spend some time trying to figure that out. But yeah, keep an eye on the weather. I definitely like the under in this game. And the Browns have struggled across the board on offense. I mean, I know a lot of people have been, screaming and yelling about Baker Mayfield, but in the metrics that matter, the Browns' offense is 30th, okay? 30th in the NFL. So not very good. And I do think their defense will be able to limit what the Chargers can do in the air. So I do anticipate that the under is definitely going to be the play here. Cleveland ranks second in pass defense, so it's going to be big trying to limit the ability of Keenan Allen out there on the outside, Mike Williams. I don't think of that. But since 2003, the unders, 56% in games with double-digit wins. So check the forecast in that game tomorrow before you make a decision as to what you are going to do. What is going on? Mika, what is going on here, Mika? Let's see what we got here, Mika. Mika says, but no, you ain't that bad. Stop it. Stop it. You guys are not that bad. I don't even want to hear that. The 49ers I actually like a lot in the Monday night game against I know it's on the road, I know it's in Green Bay, but I really do like that spot. And we talked to Ralph Michaels earlier, wagertalk.com, and I can tell you right now, the 49ers, that defense is no joke. And I know people have made fun of C.J. Beathard, but C.J. Beathard threw up over 400 yards of offense last week in a losing effort. But it's not as if you're losing that much more with C.J. Beathard. You've got a very talented offensive-minded head coach. yes, you've been hit by the injury bug, but your defense has kept you in games. And can we all be honest here? Aaron Rodgers and that offense in Green Bay is not, they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. Not to mention that Aaron Rodgers still hobbling. That knee is still an issue for them. And the 49ers can go after it and get it. I definitely think the 49ers as a double-digit underdog. There's some value in that game on Monday night. So we'll talk more about that on Monday, but keep that in mind. Mika, where you welcome in. But yes, no, I know the 49ers they're not great, but you've also been decimated by injuries. But I do still think you guys are very competitive, and I think you're going to be okay when it comes to that. All right, second game we're going to talk about here. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of those games that if I was a fantasy football player, which I am, I would go ahead and pick just about every offensive person on both of these teams that I could, because both of these defenses are absolutely abysmal. First of all, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, these are guys that you definitely want to look at. I'd start all three of them. I don't care, including Matt Ryan. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary, the numbers are laughable. It is really laughable, but it's no better for the Atlanta Falcons, by the way, and the amount of points that they've been able to give up over the last couple of weeks. The numbers right now tell us that 66% of the bettors are backing Atlanta at home, which doesn't surprise me. But here are the trends you need to know in this game. After losing 3 straight, the Falcons are small favorites at home. And Matt Ryan, in this particular situation, has underperformed over his career. When they are small favorites or fewer than 3 points, Matt Ryan is only 6-17-1 against the spread, including the playoffs. So not a great situation right now. -3, -2.5. It's battling back and forth there. The Buccaneers are coming off a bye week. Jameis Winston is back as the starting quarterback. Since 2003, teams coming off a bye have a distinct split against the spread as an underdog compared to when they are favorite and facing a divisional opponent. What do I mean by that? As a favorite, which they are not, 48-36-2, 57% against the spread. As an underdog, 32-47-1. That's 40%. So not a good position for the Buccaneers. It screams home field advantage. And really right now what they're telling us with a -3, you're getting -3 for Atlanta for being at home, which is kind of the industry standard. So you're telling me that on a neutral site, these two teams are equal, and I don't think they're equal at all. I would take the Atlanta offense at home in a dome over Jameis Winston and the offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers any day. I'll take those and lay those points. I'd be happy to do it because I do think that once the engines get revved up there, I'll be more than happy to lay those points at home with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and what's going on there. So, yes, the Falcons' defense has been hard. It's one of the worst in the league, certainly through the first 5 seasons. But like I said, the Bucs have allowed an NFL high 7 yards per play. Think about that. Their defense, you might as well you can play with 8 guys on defense and still possibly give up less than 7 yards per play. That's what the defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is doing. So I think there are some reasons for optimism in Atlanta. I do think that this will be the first time all season long where they have the same starting lineup in consecutive weeks, which is good. I know Jarrett could also return, which will help the defensive front for them. So I got no problem laying the points, taking the Atlanta Falcons. But I will say this. I will definitely say this. From a fantasy standpoint, you guys go ahead and you bet just about everybody that you can offensively in that game. You bet anybody and everybody you can because, there is going to be some points scored in that game. All right, the Chicago Bears are in town taking on the Miami Dolphins. Spread 3.5 points in this game, and you Miami Dolphin fans hanging out with us here. It's been bouncing back and forth, 3 to 3.5. As a 3-point home dog, there has been a lot of A lot of sharp action, moving the line back and forth between 3.5 and 3. A lot of money coming in on the Bears, and that's why we've seen it move. But here's the trends you need to know in this game. Miami has lost consecutive games and is now listed as a home underdog. And while that might seem like a good contrarian way to go about this, where you buy low on the Dolphins, history tells us otherwise. Since 2003, home underdogs coming off consecutive losses, they've gone 78, 104, and 7 against the spread. So not a good position. The numbers and trends don't look very good for the Miami Dolphins. Not to mention that Bears run defense versus the Dolphins run defense. I know there are going to be people that are going to look and say, listen, the Dolphins are at home. They've been, if nothing else, they've been very consistent with the opportunity to be stingy at home, and they have been. Chicago is healthy, coming off a bye. Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle for the Miami Dolphins, it looks like he is back out of the concussion protocol, so their best offensive lineman will be there. They are going to need that. Still no word on what's going on with Cameron Wake or Andre Branch. Their tight end, A.J. Derby, Bobby McCain, they could all be sidelined by game time. So the Dolphins are really, really banged up. And for the exception of Prince Amukamara for the Chicago Bears, they're relatively healthy across the yard. So, listen, the Dolphins, if you can get the Dolphins over 3, if you can get them, let's say 4, maybe 4.5, which is where this number may go before it is said and done, then if you want to go with the contrarian pick, not a bad way to go because, like I said, the Dolphins up for this might be a field goal game because you're asking a lot of Mitchell Trubisky on the road in that atmosphere. And if they can get help, you can get Cameron Wake and Bobby McCain. And don't forget that the Dolphins also, their secondary is leading the league in interceptions. So they've got some guys back there, Minkah Fitzpatrick, that are ball hawks. And if you think I trust Mitchell Trubisky to be able to throw the same kind of game that he had against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think you're out of your control. So +4, if you can get it, 3.5, 4, I might tend to lead the Dolphins in this particular game. That's what I'm thinking. Also, another game that I like, the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Oakland Raiders. This game is in London. So keep that in mind, too, here, guys, this weekend that you're going to have to get up a little bit earlier, especially on the East Coast. Forget about the West Coast. You guys have to get up 6 o'clock in the morning. But on the East Coast, keep in mind that the Seattle Seahawks, Oakland Raiders, Seahawks opened up 2.5 at some books, 3 at others. It's been back and forth between that number all week. A large majority of the bets and the dollars are on the over. And that's pushed it from 47 to 48 in a lot of places. Here are the trends that you need to know in this game. Last week, Russell Wilson was phenomenal at home, keeping up with the Rams, going punch for punch with them. Almost managed to pull off the upset, but it didn't really matter because they ended up covering, which is really all we can ask there. In his career, Russell Wilson, 8-1 straight up, 6-2-1 against the spread after a home loss straight up, which is where we're in right now. He has won 7 consecutive games straight up dating back to 2015. And in games played in London since 2007, the favorite, 16-4-1 straight up and 14-7 against the spread. The over is 12-9. So there's a lot to be said about the number here. Seahawks being 2.5. Russell Wilson loves this position, 6-2-1 against the spread after a after a loss like that. So not a bad way to look at it. I happen to like the over myself, and the over is 48 points. I think there's bound to be a lot of points scored in London against these two defenses. This week's the second highest explosive pass play rate. It has two defenses that haven't done anything about pressuring the quarterback all year. They're not going to get to Derek Carr. They certainly ain't going to get to Russell Wilson. So I do think that the over-under, since it's already moved up since it opened at 47 points, there's definitely some value in there. I would still pound it. If you can get it under 50, I would do it. I think both of these offenses are capable of scoring in the high 20s without a doubt, and I don't anticipate there being a whole lot of defense without Khalil Mack and Earl Thomas on these teams. So the over and the Seahawks are in that game is something I certainly I like. One of the next games there is the New York Jets taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Jets are hurt. Their secondary, 2 of their 3 starters are not going to be in this game. They are hurt, but the only good news is the Colts are essentially a hospital ward dressed as a football team. Outside of Andrew Luck being the healthiest, they have lost pretty much everybody. T.Y. Hilton not going for the Colts, who are going to be on the road. It's 2.5 right now. The Jets are laying the 2.5 at home. The Jets are looking to put together a 2-game winning streak, which is something we have never seen. Some of the trends you need to know over the Colts' past 16 games, 3-13 straight up. And that's almost minus 6 point differential, including 3 consecutive losses outright. 3 consecutive losses outright and back-to-back losses against the spread entering Week 6. So when Indy faces a team with a losing record after the Colts failed to win straight up, they covered the spread in the previous game. Andrew Luck, 13-0 straight up, 12-1 against the spread, and they usually cover the spread by close to 9 points. So this is a good position for Andrew Luck. Failed to win straight up and cover the week prior, but 2 weeks ago, he did. In this particular situation, he is pretty good. Sam Darnold, one of 5 quarterbacks selected in the first round that didn't go to the New York Giants. Sorry about that, Giant fans. But this is the first time in the Super Bowl era that a rookie quarterback, or that rookie quarterbacks in general, have gone 4-0 in the same week, and it happened last week. Will that trend continue again this week? We'll see. But like I said, the Jets, Isaiah Crowell, questionable right now. Leonard Williams, also questionable, but we know Tremaine Johnson and Buster Screen, concussion, are out, so the Jets are going to be kind of working with a makeshift situation there in this game. The Colts +3. This is a classic game of one of those overreactionary. The Jets ran up the score on the Denver Broncos last week. People saw that, rushed for 200 and 300 yards, almost 300 combined yards there. They played great against them, but that doesn't mean that it translates week to week. So the public is jumping all over the Jets. This is one of those contrarian possibilities. Even with his hurt as the Indianapolis Colts are, you're still looking at Sam Darnold versus Andrew Luck. And if you're going to give me Luck against Darnold this year, the way Luck has been playing and the way how healthy he is, you got to give the edge to Andrew Luck hands down. So if you're looking at a point total, or if you're looking at a way to go in that game, the Colts, if you can get them at 3, maybe 3.5, if it gets pushed up that high, that's probably a pretty good bet there. One other game that I wanted to give you there that we didn't talk about with Ralph Michaels from Wager Talk TV, which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, you can certainly rewind it right after this, right after we're done here. At the beginning, you'll have the opportunity to be able to check out what Ralph Michaels thinks of some of the more high-profile games this week, including Kansas City, New England, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. He's got some great insight and some great trends in that segment, so make sure you guys check it out. As soon as we're done here, you'll be able to see it in the beginning of the show. One of my final and best bets of the weekend is going to be the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Why do I like this game so much? Well, here are the trends you need to know. Bad teams have been really good bets as the underdog in the NFL this year. Actually, since 2003, because teams that have won fewer than 25% of their games, like the Cardinals, they are 120, 87, and 4, almost 59% against the spread when they're getting 10 or more points. Right now, they're getting 10.5 points on the road at Minnesota, this being the Arizona Cardinals there. Since the beginning of the 2014 season, the Vikings are the second most profitable team at home, 24-10 record against the spread. And certainly they have been... Mike Zimmer has been a money-making machine for bettors, especially at home against the number. The Vikings' last home game prior to Sunday was a 27-6 loss to the Bills, but since that, Minnesota 8-1 against the spread in their next home game after an against-the-spread home loss. So that is the position that they find themselves in here right now. Dalvin Cook does anticipate that he'll be back. We don't know if he's going to be on a pitch count, but the number that I love in this game is the under 43, because if I had to bet here, which I do, it has been 4 brutal weeks for the Minnesota Vikings. And to date, the Cardinals might just be what the doctor orders in order for the Cardinals to be able to get themselves, for the Vikings to be able to get themselves back on a win streak. But Arizona has 1 win and comes in averaging less than 14 points per game. Now, the Vikings defense hasn't been great. They have allowed 15 receptions of 25-plus yards this year. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. Did not see that coming from this defense this year, but it's done well against number 1 wide receivers. So Minnesota ranks 10th against the opposition's top wide receiver. Not very good news for Larry Fitzgerald at this point. But they defend the deep ball very well, the Arizona Cardinals. So the idea that, you're going to be able to go deep with Thielen, no, I don't think that's going to happen. These two teams combined 7-3 on the under this season. I don't see any reason why this won't continue. I don't see the Cardinals lighting up the defense of the Minnesota Vikings, and I certainly don't see the Minnesota offense being able to just totally take advantage of the very defensive-minded Arizona Cardinals team. So I like the under here, 43.5. These two teams have underwhelmed all year long. I can definitely see a 21-10 victory here, something of 24-10 victory for the Minnesota Vikings. Don't anticipate this to be a blowout because I don't think that's exactly what you're going to get. So some great information there, including tonight's game. Don't forget tonight, big battle. You got Tulsa taking on South Florida. I told you earlier, love South Florida in this position. Tulsa is not a very good team. The power rankings have this game should be somewhere at about 13 or 14, minus 13 or 14 for South Florida. They're only laying 7. I don't see any reason why South Florida is not going to be able to run away with this game. And then also parlay that tonight with Air Force San Diego State, 2 running teams who defend the run very well. The over-under in that game, I believe, is 44. The under will definitely hit there. If you enjoy punting, you're going to love the Air Force San Diego State late tonight, Friday night. 2-team parlay there. Lay the points with South Florida. Take the under in the Air Force San Diego State game. You'll cash the ticket, and then we'll have a lot of fun on Monday as I give you the winner of the Aaron Rodgers versus San Francisco 49ers defense game. A lot of value in that game, too. So this has been fun. You guys rock. Want to thank you so very much for coming down. Oh, look at Vari. Now Vari shows up out of nowhere. What is going on, Vari, you sick bastard? All right, now, Vari, here's what I want to know, man. Are you going to be getting up in London time to be able to watch the Raiders get their ass handed to them by the Seattle Seahawks? I'm just curious. I'm asking for a friend. That's all I want to know. But Vari's a diehard. Those of you that don't know, Vari pops in here. He is great. He's a diehard Raiders fan. I know it's been a rough season for him, but even Vari will tell you that at least he's not a Giants fan. And maybe the only fan base that's having a worse time this year are the New York Giants, especially after last night. Just devastating game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And Vari, you can tell me if I'm right, man. Am I right? Is it just miserable what we did last night? If you're a Giants fan, honestly, Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr., man, the finger pointing going on in New York right now. And that's why you got to hope for the Jets to win. If the Jets win, it would just be so devastating for Giant Nation there. The G-Men, Big Blue, they'd have a very hard time dealing with the fact that Sam Darnold is winning more games and that they had a chance to get Sam Darnold. As much as they love Saquon Barkley, Giant fans are crushed right now because they want to love him unconditionally, but they can't because they know they could have had an opportunity at any one of the other first round quarterbacks, those things called, what are they called? Oh, yeah, franchise quarterbacks. And they opted not to go with it. They opted to go with Saquon, who's a beast, but he's not a franchise quarterback. And that's the problem that Giants are having right now. They love the guy, but they don't love him so much that they would have passed up on a guy like Sam Darnold, which is what they're struggling with right now. big time, the Giants, like big time. So I feel bad for the Giant brotherhood there, but listen, the good news is you'll have a high draft pick again next year, and you know it's bad when the Buffalo Bills actually have more wins than you do. Wow, that hurts. And I do actually like the Bills in a position. The Bills now, I believe, are almost a double-digit underdog in Houston, and I kind of like that, and I like the under in that game too. So just throwing that out there for you. But you guys rule, man. Buffalo Rumblings, want to thank those guys so much. Sean Murphy from Buffalo Rumblings, he stopped by. He talked to us yesterday about those Buffalo Bills. As a matter of fact, some great information there for you Buffalo, you Bills Mafia people who are really in a class all your own. We love you there. And I'm going to say goodbye here, but I'm going to go ahead and play that interview from Sean Murphy yesterday for you, for those of you that missed it. They got a lot of interesting stuff going on in Buffalo right now. They've got Derek Anderson. They've got some amazing rookies on defense that are doing a great job. And let's face it, they're playing Houston, who hasn't been world beaters. They're on the road, but here we go again. You've got the Buffalo Bills in that situation where they may very well be a double-digit underdog on the road. These guys gave us some great information on LaShawn McCoy and everything else that went along those lines. So Buffalo has been a very interesting story thus far this year. Don't forget, they won at home last week with 82 yards of passing from Josh Allen. That is not an easy thing to do. That means they're a very well-coached team. So I'm going to leave you with Sean Murphy from Buffalo Rumblings, SB Nation. Make sure that you guys check out that page. Always some great information. Love our friends over at SB Nation. And make sure you check out wagertalk.com before it's all said and done. Great, valuable information. Knowledge is power there. Make sure you get yourself some knowledge. Follow those guys, wagertalk.com. Ralph Michaels, beginning of this video, you guys will be able to get it. So have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Vori, enjoy the game this weekend, man. I don't know that you're going to be all excited about the Raiders. That's for shit sure. But enjoy the game anyway. And here is Sean Murphy from SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings. Great stuff here. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll talk to you on Monday. Thanks for making us a part of your day. So, guys, Buffalo Bills, you heard me talk about them a little bit earlier in the week after they beat the Tennessee Titans at home last week. I did make an apology about Sean McDermott. I was a little harsh on him the beginning in the year, but I've got nothing for respect for him, and I thought it'd be great if we talk to somebody who covers the Buffalo Bills every day, and I couldn't think of anybody better than Sean Murphy, Buffalo Rumblings, SB Nation. He joins us via the Miami Acura hotline. And Sean, thanks for taking a few minutes out and talking with us today.
Oh, no problem, Joe. Thanks for having me.
All right, so the reason I apologized about Sean McDermott is I said there's no way in this NFL that a defensive-minded head coach with a rookie quarterback, high draft pick, was ever going to be successful in this league. And then there you go. You rattle off 2 damn victories that, you only throw for 82 yards. And then it hit me as I'm looking at the tape and I'm watching these games. I'm going, this is a very well-coached team. And there's no substitute for coaching. And make no mistake about it, the reason Buffalo has 2 wins after they've never been favored by less than they've always been underdogs by 8 or more points in every game this year, including the one coming up against Houston. But you don't win 2 games when you're that big an underdog without being very well coached. So what do you guys see covering the Buffalo Bills? Am I wrong here, or is he actually proving and your offensive coordinator proving they're pretty good coaches?
No, I think especially with regard to McDermott, you're 100% right. He's his defensive system really is predicated on discipline and showing a lot of attack mode. Whether they actually attack out of it or not. He's a disciple of that Jim Johnson, the former Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator, school of thought where you're going to sugar or double A-cap that center, and then it causes a lot of havoc up front, whether they're bringing 6 guys or 4. So he's been able to create a lot of confusion with other offenses. Regarding Buffalo's offense, like you said, it's kind of a throwback to the 1950s. It's handoff left, handoff right, and hope that you're in 3rd and 3 so that you can hand it off up the middle again. But watching 2 quarterbacks, because even Allen threw for 82, I don't think Mariota broke 130 on Sunday. So that was that was a low-octane offensive game for sure between those two.
Yeah, and listen, there's only so much you can do. You're kind of handcuffed right now. It is the least talented team, if not the least talented team in the NFL. We know this. Certainly no weapons for the rookie quarterback, Josh Allen. Offensive line suspect at best. The defense is what's pushing this engine and pushing this team. But all of a sudden this week, we hear Philadelphia is in dire need of a running back. They pick up the phone. They call Buffalo. Your handoff left, handoff right. Your workhorse, LaShawn McCoy, is all of a sudden now up for grabs. What is the latest on that? What have you heard regarding LaShawn McCoy?
Well, McDermott, and he was asked about it yesterday, and actually he wasn't even asked yet. He jumped right on it, and he said that there are incoming calls all the time on players, and he would neither confirm nor deny that McCoy had been discussed. All he would say is that LaShawn is obviously one of Buffalo's better players. You could make the argument that he is their best player and really the only player on offense who other teams would be interested in taking. Like you said, it's McCoy and a whole bunch of guys who you look at and say, who's that on the offensive roster? They don't have a whole bunch going on, but my gut, based on what they're saying and how they're talking, is I don't see them moving him. I think it's more just routine Phillies checking in. The rumor was, I think it came from Ian Rappaport, that it was a second and a third round pick that Buffalo was demanding if they were to move McCoy, which I don't think Philadelphia would pay. So I have a funny feeling this is going to be much ado about nothing.
Sean Murphy joining us, SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings. He covers the Buffalo Bills, who are very, very interesting this year, to say the least. And as for all their shortcomings on the offense, it's still not a defensive team that you want to take on anytime soon. And I think it's going to be a very interesting game on the road in Houston this weekend, where they're once again 8.5-point underdogs, but don't sleep on that defense there. And now you went ahead and brought in a quarterback that has got some history with your head coach there, and Derek Anderson is now on the team, and you've got a lot of people saying, get him up to speed and get him starting. What do you say about taking out Josh Allen at this point?
I think that's crazy. I know that Allen has struggled, but I think just about the worst thing you could do for a kid, because let's be realistic, everyone knew that of all of the quarterbacks who were projected to be selected in the first round, Allen was easily the most raw. You could argue maybe Lamar Jackson, but Allen was considered to be a raw prospect. He comes out, he's a starter. He's struggling big time. But I think one of the worst things you could do is just pull him back and start playing this in the lineup, outside of the lineup game with a guy like Anderson. Bills coaches have done the same thing in the past. J.P. Losman was in the lineup, and then Kelly Holcomb played, and then it was Losman again, and then it was Holcomb, and then it was Trent Edwards. So we stunted his growth there. Even more recently with E.J. Manuel, you had a guy who started 10 games, 11 games, and they gave him the quick hook for Kyle Orton. The difference was that both of those guys were in situations where their head coach needed to win and win quickly in order to save his job. I don't think that McDermott is under that same kind of pressure. I think that they're willing to trust in the process that he preaches every day. And they're just going to let Allen take his lumps and hope that next year is year 2 Jared Goff as opposed to what we're seeing this year.
Well, and listen, the Jets had a very similar situation there. They got their rookie quarterback. They've got their guy, but Absolutely. It certainly helps to have that veteran presence in there. He comes off the field, and, who's he talking to right now on the sideline? So it can't be Nathan Peterman, because Peterman looks like a deer caught in a headlight. So I love the move, but I think people need to slow down with nobody's expecting the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs this year. I don't think, like you said, Sean McDermott's job is on the line this year, but you got to let him take his lumps, and hopefully you don't get him killed along the way. But not as all lost with this team, especially when it comes to rookies. You got a pretty impressive rookie slot corner, man, that is opening up a lot of eyes this year. Talk to me about Tyron Johnson.
Yeah, no, he's been outstanding. I think I saw a stat tweeted out today that he leads the league in quarterback rating against. and the lowest completion percentage against out of all defensive backs, which we knew that he was going to be a tough kid, and we knew that he'd have the opportunity to compete in there, but that shocked all of us at how well he's performed. And just week to week watching him grow, he's been really a shutdown corner in the middle of the field, which was not the expectation of a rookie fourth-round draft pick.
It really has. He's been doing great, and he's another one of those weapons that if you give a coach like Sean McDermott the ability to be able to utilize these guys, and really what it's come down to this year with the Buffalo Bills is what every great coach has in common is they put their players in a position to be successful. And if nothing else,
Absolutely.
that is exactly what Sean McDermott is doing with this defense. It's not the most talented, it's not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but I'll be damned if each and every week these guys aren't in a position to be very successful.
Yes, yeah, there are a few guys. I mean, Matt Milano, for example, one of the starting linebackers, who's a second-year player, fifth-round draft pick out of Boston College, undersized, which is funny for me to say a guy that's 6'2" and 230 pounds is undersized. But he's sitting there, and people overlooked him. He had 10 tackles last week. He's been all over the field. Tremaine Edmonds is 20 years old, the rookie starting middle linebacker, who's just, if you watch him make breaks on balls in the air, and he's so fast. He's like a missile in the middle of the field. So they're doing a nice job with a bunch of young kids. They've got some great veteran leadership there in Kyle Williams and Lorenzo Alexander. So it's a nice mixture there that they have going on. And that defense, I agree with you. I think it's one of those units that as the year progresses and they become more comfortable in the system, you're really going to see them even take another step further.
What do you want to see this weekend? I mean, it's so important, especially with a young team, inexperienced team. It's so important to be able to continue to move forward. Whether you win or where you lose, you've got to take some steps forward into getting better. So what is it, Sean, that you want to see from the Buffalo Bills on the road in Houston this weekend?
Oh, I'm greedy. I want to see him win 30-0,
yes,
and Allen throw for 400 yards, and that's what I want to see. I want my cake, and I want to eat it too. But if as they go, you're right. I mean, you just want to see the defense that has ever since Vontae Davis decided to hang him up at halftime. That they've only allowed 43 points in the 14 quarters since he retired. You'd like to see them continue and go ahead and shut down a really talented young quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who's got some great weapons over there, and DeAndre Hopkins, Kiki Kuti, and Will Fuller V. You'd also like to see Allen come out and just be more, I don't even know what the word is for it, just be more decisive in his reads, be more accurate in his throws. I do. I want to see them do all those things and come out with a win. So.
Yeah.
It's the life of a Bills fan. It's the roller coaster. We ride it.
Amen to that. Sean Murphy, Buffalo Rumblings, SB Nation. What grade would you give first-year offensive coordinator Brian Daboll at this point? I mean, you got a rookie quarterback. You've got a rookie offensive coordinator there. I mean, so what kind of grade would you give him thus far? Is he doing the best with what he's got? Is that how we can say it?
Yeah, I'm going to cop out here as take the high school English teacher mode that I am here and go. I'm going to give him an incomplete as of now.
Okay.
Because I see him handcuffed. He's got a rookie who he can't really do everything he wants to do. He's got an offensive line that is protecting better than expected, but Allen has taken more sacks than any quarterback in the league. He's been sacked 19 times so far. He's really throwing to a mishmash of wideouts who aren't quite getting the job done, to put it politely. I'm going to give him an incomplete in year one so far. I've seen glimmers. I've seen them, do creative things with bubble screens and with play action and be aggressive in situations where past offensive coordinators might have just gone 3 handoffs and a punt. Last week, Allen threw an interception in the fourth quarter in one of those situations. I loved the play call, but Allen threw a strike, hit a wide receiver, Andre Holmes, right in the chest. He couldn't corral it. It popped straight up in the air, and the ball was picked off. So there's things where I think Daboll is making the right decisions, but the talent on the field doesn't necessarily back up what he's deciding to do.
Well, you know, in Andre Holmes' in his defense, he is 105, so it is kind of hard to focus on the ball when it's thrown at you in that direction. All right, Sean Murphy, awesome stuff, man. Make sure you guys check him out. You Bills Mafia, you Bills fan. No better information, no better coverage than at SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter. Make sure you check him out at SB Nation. And Sean, thanks for taking a couple of minutes, hanging out, getting us updated on what's going on in Buffalo Bills world, and I look forward to doing this again, my friend.
Likewise. Thanks a bunch.